All right, welcome to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the bead and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Sebo?
Well, we have to finish our playoff football since playoffs are over and we know who's going to the Super Bowl. And I want to go ahead and cover the Pro Bowl today because I'm not going to watch it next week because it's stupid. But I do have one thing to say about the Pro Bowl coming up and how they're doing things these days. And then we've got the old Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing and conservatives, right wing men, and then a little bit more on the border. But if there's anything fun you want to bring up too, I've got actually a nice paper that I had to read for class, but it was actually very refreshing on political polarization. So we maybe that could be a big part of this as well. Anything you want to add to that?
All right. Nope. I was going to start digging through some of the statutes, but I think I'll wait and see where things go. As far as looking at the language of these statutes that are in play here, with with the Texas with the Texas case, the invasion case.
Oh,
It's
Joy
getting
Reid. That was
interesting.
what we needed to bring up. The hot mic.
Oh, yeah, you'd mentioned that, and I had
Yeah,
another
I,
Joy
I
Reid
I have
thing
it
that I
queued
forgot
up.
to
I
tell
have
you.
it queued up. So I can't believe that was the main thing I wanted to talk about. And I forgot to introduce it. Okay, so we
All
got Joy
right.
Reid on the hot
Well,
mic, and I've got a very important point because what she actually comments on is there's a ridiculousness to what Biden is saying at the time, not just what she says,
mhm.
which I actually agree with her. I have to say I agree with Joy Reid here when she's not talking in front of the camera that she knows of. Uh, that's a secondary point. What do they actually think, and what do they say on TV?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's go into the playoffs. We got the most uninteresting combination we could have, other than possibly KC Philadelphia for a second year in a row. That would have been less interesting, but we probably
Yeah.
have the most uninteresting combination. Thank goodness I had a brisket in the deep freeze already. Uh, and I'm gonna have to admit, I'm not going to make it Casey style because Casey is too sweet for me.
Well, no, there is a reputable, respected establishment called Smoking Guns in old downtown KC. Um, it was the place we would go to when we were going through KC when we lived in Missouri, and it's not maybe not popular to say this, but the reason it was the best barbecue in Kansas City is because it was run by a couple of displaced Texans. So I think the reason Casey is known for their burnt ends, but I think the reason the burnt ends at Smoking Guns was so darn good was because it came off a Texas style brisket.
Well, and I had been doing this for a while because it just didn't make sense to me. But damn dogs. But I was flipping through doom scrolling through Instagram reels one night while I was listening to podcasts, and it was I think it was Mississippi. This old black man. His business had been around for many hundred and something years, uh, doing brisket and everything. And he said something. Why the hell do these white folks trim their brisket? You got to cook it with the fat. That's where all the flavor is. Everybody's talking about the
Mhm,
smoke ring. The
mhm.
smoke ring doesn't change the taste one bit. You trim it after you cook it. And I had been doing that forever because it just made sense that you
Yep.
cook it with the
Yep.
fat. It's more moist. You can trim it after. You can throw the cooked fat to your animals, which is healthier for them than the raw fat. And it's a win-win for everybody. And yeah, everybody overblows that smoke ring. They're like, "Oh, look at this." And I go to cook-offs, and hopefully the people that I go with don't listen to this because they're part of it. Everybody overthinks this damn thing. They're like, "Oh, try
Mhm.
this one out. This is the one we're gonna submit." And I'm like, "A little dry and bland." And dry and bland is what you can say about most cook-off briskets. But if you cook it with the fat, it is not dry and bland. And you don't serve it with all the fat on it. You cut it off after. And it's
Yep.
actually easier
Yep.
to cut off after. It comes off like butter.
Oh yeah. If you cook it right, it
Yeah.
just melts right off.
And the other overthinking is, oh,
Um,
we need 24 hours of smoke. It's like, no, give it about 3 or 4 hours of smoke. then put it in the oven at a controlled temperature for 24 hours, and you're going to have the most tender, best brisket you've ever had.
Yep. Since I have a vertical smoker, and I don't remember where I get this idea from, but if anyone else out there has a vertical smoker, I put the fat on the bottom because that protects it from the heat source. So that protects the meat from the heat source. And then when I foil it, when I wrap it in foil and either leave it out there or move it to the oven, then I flip it so that it's self-basting,
When I do it in
so
my
that all
my
that good
standard
fat drips
smoker, which
down.
has the stack on the side and then the barrel in the middle, I put it fat down first for about an hour while there's still flame in the
Mm,
smoke pot stack, and then I flip it over and I keep it smoldering for another 3, 4 hours, and then I put it in the oven overnight.
that's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff.
Um,
Everybody
I'm not
overthinks
sure
this.
what I'm
It's
making for. I gotta find
well,
something other
you've
than
got the Asian
barbecue
wife. You
for.
got Chinese food
Yes. Yeah,
for
she
San
insists San
Francisco.
Francisco is Chinatown, so she's gonna do some kind of Chinese food. And then for Casey, I think she's gonna do. I found it odd that they're known for lemon pies, but
Yeah,
she
which is
was
my
thinking
least
about making
interesting.
miniature lemon pies.
Well, actually, Nicole makes a really good lemon pie, so I'll get her on that because she makes it with it's like a kind of a German style creamy lemon. It's different
Mm,
than like a lemon meringue. It's better, trust me. It won't be traditional KC, but I was looking at KC foods, and other than barbecue, I was like, this is so boring. Why lemon pie? You can't even grow lemons there. You know, it's
do we actually care about the game?
uh
I don't know. Here is something I thought
I
interesting.
want to see San Francisco put the smackdown on KC. So I do care about the
Really,
game. Yeah. But
I
KC is
am
like
so
my
conflicted
second least favorite team of all time.
because well, see, I had long been a KC-ish fan, because they were lovable losers for so long with that loyal fan base and the history, but the history went back, to the 60s and 70s. And then when we were growing up, except for the years Montana went there and said, "Nope, I've still got it,"
Which is where I
they really kind
developed
of
my hate
sucked.
for them because I also didn't like San Francisco very much.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Montana went there, and the year he went there, they beat the Oilers in the divisional round of the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. Dope. Dope. Uh, would you have liked him if Detroit didn't suck and he had gone there instead?
Montana, would I have
Did we
liked?
talk about that? Did we talk
Yeah,
about the Bye Bye Barry?
you mentioned that. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh no, I would have rooted for the good quarterback. No. He went from a team I didn't like to another team I didn't like that beat a team I liked. So there's
Yeah.
history there.
This is
And I was also in that high testosterone middle teens era
mhm.
where everything hits you harder. And yeah.
I am so conflicted here because I should hate San Francisco, and I did for a long time because of all the playoff battles they had with Dallas. Both back in the 70s and then again when Dallas got good again in the 90s. Um, but then also because as a kid, I really liked Elway. I thought he was awesome and the coolest QB. And the 49ers destroyed the Broncos in one of the first Super Bowls I can remember watching. Um, but I kind of like McCaffrey, the ageless wonder. Um, I I think Shanahan is really impressive, not just him, but then the coaching tree that's come off from around
Oh
him.
no,
And
this is one of those things that's there's a lot to like about the team,
uh,
but you still got some history to
right.
deal with, you know.
But same with KC. I think Andy Reid is even when he was with the Eagles, who I detest. I've always been impressed by Andy Reid. Um, but now that they've become the Kansas City Swifty Pfizers,
See, it
uh,
was before that. I think so many people were just it's almost like the Swifty Pfizers were there to recover the things that people weren't liking about about Kansas City already. Uh,
well, and there is an element of that because I would much rather see Buffalo finally win one, and now that Allen doesn't seem to be able to get past Mahomes, in the same way that Manning couldn't get past Brady for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm really conflicted here, and I think I'm going to be very meh while actually watching the Super Bowl. Um, but before we get there,
Well, we have a couple
when we
comments from
were
our last football episode too, and I think we can get them
okay,
here. Scott says, "I quit watching football when the NFL allowed the first player to disrespect the American flag." Okay, so yes, I agree. We did as well. We boycotted for a little bit, and this is the subject that got me into studying the critical theories because remember, I
hmm
wanted to
hmm
see what was underneath
yeah.
because the cap thing didn't make sense. There was something underneath. There was some strategy in play that wasn't just racism.
Well, and
Because
because if you
Tim,
weren't paying attention, it was very odd because since Desert Storm and Whitney Houston's national anthem at the Super Bowl, the NFL had been pushing patriotism as part of its brand. And now all of a sudden there's this switch that flips. And everybody seemingly is all in on this CRT stuff. And if you're just a normal football fan, you're going, what happened here? I'm
yeah, but
confused.
but what
And
we
why can't I
had
just watch my game?
what we had was the first 1-2 punch from this. And don't it's actually more media driven than it was NFL driven because Goodell's a great businessman
Yeah.
and he understands that. But cap means nothing if the cameras never panned in on him.
Mhm.
And then people made a big deal about it. And we're gonna go into more of that when we get to the Taylor Kelce Swifties here, because I've got something to say about the media attention to that. Uh, but then they actually felt the backlash, unlike other sports, and they pulled back. Now they still
Yeah.
throw a thing here. They still got the little end racism in the end zone and stuff, but you don't see any more of it because Cap faded away and there wasn't collusion, but owners understood what trouble in the locker room was, and that's why you never saw Cap again. He could have started for some teams. I will agree with that
hmm
analysis. He didn't try. That's step one. But also he would have been a backup on any team. So he could have had a job.
Which would have been a distraction. It's the same reason, other side of the coin. It's the same reason Tim Tebow couldn't get anywhere because he was a brand. Now you can like his brand better than you like Cap's brand, but he's still a brand and he still brings a lot of media attention that if he's just a backup, it's not worth the headache.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then you see teams that felt the pressure, and yeah, you would want them to say man up from the beginning, but they're also multi-billion dollar organizations that are trying to figure out where the winds are going to for their
Mhm.
stockholders. Our team is a great example. The McNairs bent over backwards for the whole thing, and they still got freaking Hopkins saying it's the slave trade here and da 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 after they bent over backwards for these things. And after that little debacle, you saw a turnaround because then they were like, just F you. If capitulating didn't work, well, guess what? We hold the purse strings. And now guess what? We're
Mhm.
we're we're going back up the road and we got a black head coach, a semi-black quarterback. We've got all the things they say they want, but we
Yeah.
did it in a way where we were getting the most qualified people at
Well,
the same time.
exactly. And Ryan's wasn't chosen because he was, I mean,
He was
this
the
may lead into
number
my
one
Mayo
commodity when it
comments.
came to coaches in that
He
offseason.
was one of, if not like the top three that offseason. But for the Texans, he's our guy. He's one of
Yeah,
us.
yeah, he was one of
So,
us. We drafted him. He played for us for what, 7 years? Then he played a couple of years in Philly where he learned a lot from Andy Reid.
mhm.
And then he became a coach under Shanahan.
From the Shanahan tree. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
and now he's with us, and it was the best choice for the job. And nobody in this damn town says diversity hire. 2 years ago, when we had Cully, everybody was saying, diversity hire. He was a mediocre wide receivers coach that came in, and he was the supposed to make Deshaun Watson happy, and it didn't work because they're never happy. And the front office finally figured that out. They're never going to be happy. So
Yeah.
let's just do business the way it should be. And the NFL is going that direction. Again, yeah, you still see the end racism in the the end zone. They get to wear the shoes they want with their cause on it, but other players are doing it for good causes. So it actually opens the door for other things that are good. Now, the NBA, on the other hand, is still playing to China money.
Mhm.
Wimbledon still would not let Djokovic come into the country. All of these other things that all of these other sports are just going with. The only sport that's done better is UFC. That's the only organization that did better than the NFL through this whole last 10 years of kerfuffle. Now you could still have your stance. That's fine. That's great. But if you're going to watch sports, you got to pick and choose some battles. And I think the NFL is the least worst, other than UFC at this point.
Who was the guy? I have not followed UFC in years. And then all over my podcast is this clip of this guy in a press conference going off on a
Sean
Canadian
Strickland.
reporter.
Yeah, Sean Strickland.
So that was the second most impressive thing I've seen from the UFC in a while. The first one was um the son of Iranian immigrants praising Jesus, my Lord and Savior, as the only way in a fight that I think was in Qatar.
I don't know that one.
It was like Dubai. No, I think it was in Dubai, where there are Sharia like laws on the books. So that's why that was the first most impressive. And this Strickland, the reason this was impressive is because he's saying that in a place where he could literally be arrested for hate speech. This isn't just trolling for clicks. He is saying that in a place where it actually puts him in danger.
You talking about the Iranian guy or
Not both
Strickland?
of them.
Okay,
Both of them. Strickland
Strickland
too.
also was recently before he went on that tirade sponsored by Bud Light. And he's on the books as saying, "I'll take their money and I'll be part of their redemption project, but they're still stupid." So there you go. So the only organization that did it better was UFC, and even during COVID, Fight Island. They got with the Abu Dhabi
Yeah.
and the royal family there created the island and had the only true bubble. The NBA bubble was a farce. Players were
Yes.
going in and out, serving people were going in and out, the officials were going in and out. But Fight Island, once you were on the island, you were there for months before you interacted.
Um. Speaking of being stupid and not doing it right,
Well, do we want to make our
Whitlock had.
predictions first?
Well, let's. We still
We
haven't really
ventured
even
into
talked about the
politics.
games.
Was that
I said we still haven't really even talked about the games, and I meant to pull up a clip, but
well?
we'll
Let's do
just
that because we're going to segue to
move it.
politics. So let's do talking about the games first. Uh,
So Whitlock had
let's
an interesting take on the Baltimore game because we were texting back and forth about the call came down from New York that the officials need to make sure the KC Swifty Pfizers get through to the Super Bowl. Whitlock's take was the exact opposite. When he was watching the game, he was thinking these refs are bending over backwards to keep Baltimore in it. And he's not, which first of all is funny that two people can watch the same game and come away with the exact, and they're neither one of them are necessarily wrong because the officiating has been that bad and the league has been that suspect that we can watch the game thinking the refs are trying to get the Pfizer reps through to the Super Bowl, and Whitlock's looking at it going, this is all racial, and this majority black crew is trying to get this, you know, uh, very urban city with a black quarterback through, and they're bending over backwards because I really thought that game was about to get out of hand at the end of the first half. And if it weren't for a few calls and a couple of breaks, it would have been out. It would have been like 28-7 at the end of the first half.
Well, let me address officiating first because I don't agree that the officiating was the big thing in the call game, but there were things. And uh it, when I say if Vegas has their hand in anything, there's going to be a thumb on the scale in some way, shape, or form. I don't mean there's going to be a call to the official say, "Hey,
Yeah.
stop them here," or "We need you to have that game-changing call that does this." Even the best and the worst teams in the league are evenly matched enough that two or three calls go against you in a game
Yes.
and it could change the whole outcome. So there's that, but also how you let them play and the selection of the officiating crew. I texted you
Exactly.
during the Texans game, that Baltimore had the most home team friendly officiating crew there was. That's statistically. You can go look these things up.
Yep.
You look up the head referee and then you look up his crew and they're actually rated on how they make calls. The Kansas City Baltimore game had the most road team friendly officiating crew there
Curious, isn't
was.
it?
And I guarantee you, and this is where Andy Reid comes into this, him and his staff scout the officiating teams they're going to have just as much as they do the players of the other team, because the way they were playing was exactly what won't get the call or what will get the call. And even we bring Travis Kelce into this, and this is why I stopped watching basketball even more than the political stuff. Players play the refs now; they don't play the game.
Hmm.
I made
Hmm.
this comment about Brandon Cooks playing the ball and he didn't get the call, and Collinsworth
Yep.
said he should have played the defender to get the call, and I'm like, he should have played the ball and the official should have made the call. That's
Hmm.
that's the difference. And Kelce is a great example of this because he started a fight and then some guy came in to break up the fight and the call was made on that guy, and he's sitting back there laughing. You see the video of him laughing about it. And it's like they
Yeah.
knew exactly how far to push to
Yeah.
get the calls to go their way. And I'm going to give credit to Andy Reid. He coached his guys up well and they played the game where Baltimore just kept getting frustrated. Now
They did.
the other
Well,
side of
and
that,
I think the other part of Whitlock's, because I think the officials were not entirely serious when he was talking about that. I saw this when I was watching the game, but I didn't realize it until he pointed out Baltimore, the number one rushing team in the league, and they threw it like 2 out of 3 plays.
that's where
Now
I
I
was
know a
going
lot of
next.
that was
That's
because they were behind. So I think
yeah,
the
but they weren't so
biggest
far.
issue
The,
with
the game was
Baltimore,
17-7 for
exactly,
most of the game. You're not so far
and
behind. Okay, so I wanted to bring up a text. I was texting
yeah,
uh, my friend JC. This is during the first quarter. The man today for them is Gus Edwards. They give him a play and then take him out. They gotta not let KC get a front four in a track stance. That was my text to him in the first quarter. They would run Gus Edwards. He'd get like 7, 8 yards a pop. They'd take him out on the next play and then pass 3 times. That was
hmm,
their game plan. Get a good run, pass three in a row. And then Lamar Jackson on the flip side, this is where I hate the social pressure of you need to be a pocket passer to be taken seriously as a quarterback. Everybody says, "Oh,
hmm,
run first quarterback, run first quarterback." Well, you know what? Run first till they stop you. Run first till they stop you, because what they were allowed to do in KC is play man on the receivers, have safety help over the top, and rush four. There were so many play. I'd say at like 7 to 8 plays during that game. I was like, Lamar, why didn't you run? Lamar, why didn't you run?
yep,
Because the
yep,
the threat of that not being there, you can't play man against Lamar. This is why you don't play man against Lamar. Because when you play man, you have to turn your back to the quarterback. When you play zone, you keep your eyes on the quarterback. That's why zone is better against rushing quarterbacks. But he wouldn't run, so they allowed Kansas City to play man on the receivers, which allowed for the lack of calls against DBs because they knew how to play the receivers based on what they were going to get away with. Andy Reid told him, put your hand between his hands and you're good. If you do that, you look like you're making a play on the ball, which I agree with personally. But you can't play that way if he's threatening the run every time. We couldn't get
right,
into that set. Our guys were said are good, are better at man. The Texans. We got Stingley, we got Nelson on the other side. We play man ball well, but we couldn't do it because Lamar kept running.
yes.
He would
Well,
have a
well,
wide open field in front of him and then try to make a tight pass into double coverage because he wouldn't run the damn ball.
what was interesting about the Texans game is if you watch that game, you thought Jackson ran for 1,000,000 yards. He didn't. He seemed, because when he did run, it was a it was a multiplier effect because he chose his spots and
Mm-hmm.
he made his runs to extend drives. to make a second and long a third and short, or to make a third and medium a first down. So he chose
or
his
even the
spots and he made it very effective.
or you look on the meta, and I like to talk defense because the defensive strategy is kind of where I lie. Most of my expertise lies. If he threatens the run in those key situations, you have to spy him with a linebacker or a safety. And if you're spying him with a linebacker or a safety, you take somebody out of the hole when you run the ball
Mm-hmm.
regularly. So if he hands it off to
Yep.
Gus, there's one less linebacker to plug the hole because that person is watching for him to fake the handoff and take it around the other side.
You've also got one less person to fill a gap, so it's easier to find a hole in the zone
Mm-hmm.
and dump off to make the easy throw. I really do wonder how much of that loss was ego, whether it was the part of Jackson or the coaching staff that said the Baltimore Ravens aren't going to win this game. Lamar Jackson's going to win this game,
Mm-hmm.
and they they
Well, and he's
they
going to
tried to
do it in the
force
way
it.
that shuts the critics up. That's the other thing.
Yes,
You go back to
yes.
UFC, another place where I've done a lot of coaching, MMA, and it pisses me off every time I see this. I'll bring somebody, if you're way back UFC fan, Josh Koscheck. Remember him? Amazing wrestler, was really athletic, really strong, and his career kind of sunsetted, not because he was getting old, because he was still one of the most physically imposing people in his weight class at the time, because he wanted to showcase his striking. He wanted to showcase his striking, so he tried to be a kickboxer every fight. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? You've been wrestling since you were 3. You've been kickboxing for the last 2 years. You build up your weaknesses, but play to your strengths. And I hate this. Oh, well, he needs to be better pocket passer. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You build up your passing skills. You work on your accuracy every year, but you go out there and you pick your spots. And if your spot is running the ball, run the damn ball.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what's going to happen. This is what happened all year up until this game. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to start spying you and they're going to start playing soft zones so they can keep an eye on you. A mediocre quarterback will kill a soft zone every time. So you play to your strength as a runner. You get the soft zones from the defense because they're going to have to change that strategy, and you're going to look amazing as a passer because they have to play to your strength. And they did that all year. That's why he was up for the MVP. And all of a sudden, they changed plan. Whether he did it or the coaching staff did it, I have to say the coaching staff did it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think Lamar wants to just win games. He just looks like a guy that just wants to win. He doesn't care about the media. But
Yeah.
well, he also wants to make
That
money, which is another thing. But
that game was really inexplicable to me. The other game, when we were handicapping the playoffs at the very beginning, and I was going through how I thought it would play out and where I thought the upsets might come from, I mentioned the Dallas game as an example for why I would hope the Lions would pull off some upsets. I would hope the Lions could make it to the Super Bowl, but I didn't trust them because of Dan Campbell's mentality. He's very old school. I appreciate his toughness. What he's done to the culture in Detroit has been incredible, but you can't always go for the emotional play. When I used the Dallas game as an example, I didn't expect it to be exactly the Dallas game again. Oh man, what are you doing?
yeah, well, and it's not that he did it. He did it multiple times.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, sometimes you just take the points.
Yeah.
The kicker's got to be sitting there going, "Come on, man, let me help. I can help you. I can help
I'm
you."
I'm taking up a roster spot for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I might want to raise next year. Come on, let me kick the damn ball. Because what was there 4 times they went for it on fourth and short in field goal range? That's the
Mm-hmm.
difference in the game. They lost by
Mm-hmm.
3. I mean, that's it. On the other side, McCaffrey's a man. I'm sorry. There were plays where I thought he was just completely bottled up, and the other comment on our last video was you can't compare players from different eras. You can compare the individual skills. You can't compare the rules and the
Yeah.
overall stats, but you can compare the individual skills. And there were times where McCaffrey was dead to rights, and
And I,
he
I have complained about the defense in the league all season. Detroit is one of the better defenses in the league because they're one of the more fundamental defenses.
Hmm.
When you watch them, they're not just throwing themselves at the ball carrier. They are going in for an actual form, basic, old school tackle. And he would still push him off or bounce off or juke around them. So how would he do against the 85 Bears? I don't know. Probably not as good. But what he did do against the best run defense in the league was impressive.
Yeah, and if you want to compare, eras and different skill sets to say who was the best, then I could make an argument that Ron Dane was the best running back in the entire league because we had a game against Indianapolis as the Texans when he played for us where he had 3 touchdowns and 2 yards
It's very efficient.
because he was the best goal line running back you could have. He never fell backwards because he was like 310 pounds of bowling ball beef. He was more bust than Jerome Bettis. He was a bruiser. But you get in the open field and you want to sustain a drive, probably not your man. So it
Mm-hmm.
was if we compare things like that, but individual skills you can compare, and McCaffrey has more than almost anybody in the history of the league. Uh,
Yeah.
and I will say we've harped about all the bad predictions we've made throughout these playoffs because we've been pretty bad in predicting these playoffs this year. I did say this is what I'm going to say because I have to cling to the one I got right. The difference in the game is McCaffrey from the backfield as a receiver because that's the
Yeah.
only weakness Detroit's defense has, and that was the difference in the game. So
Yep.
other than the bad calls by Campbell, but
Yeah. I'm just wondering, does he learn from that in the offseason or is he just going to be him? I'm curious to see if he changes up his play calling next year at all.
yeah, it might depend on who they if they have do they have an OC?
Yeah, I don't remember who it is. I'm drawing a blank
Yeah,
on who the OC is.
if ownership and general managing says, you know what, you've got final call on these things, not Campbell, because you're the offensive coordinators on you, and that could change it a little bit if you kind of change the power dynamic a little bit there. But he's young for a coach. We'll see. We kept our offensive coordinator. We paid him a lot to keep him, and our quarterbacks coach. So we'll at least have that continuity going into next year. Uh, Anything else where I want to let me since Harbaugh is the coach of the Ravens, I want to say another thing I predicted, not on here, not on air. The other Harbaugh is now the Chargers head coach. And we were talking about the old school days back in the day, San Francisco being one of the things. 1995, Chargers, San Francisco Super Bowl. Who was the head coach of the Chargers? Or who was the quarterback for the Chargers?
Is it Harbaugh?
Jim Harbaugh.
I knew he played for the Chargers at
Yeah,
some
he
he
was he
played
was
he
he was
played
with
for
the
like
Colts
five different
forever.
teams,
Yeah,
but
he was with
yeah.
the Colts forever, and then he went to the Chargers and went to the Super Bowl. What was the running back's name? One of the
What was
coolest
it? Was
names in
LT?
football. One of the coolest
Was
names. No, it
LT
was
the
before
running
LT.
back?
It was
It was
before
before
LT.
him.
Yeah.
Who was the running back before? I can't remember.
Big guy, big guy.
Drawing a blank.
Natron means.
Ah, yeah,
Yep.
that was a good one.
And this was Steve Young, Jerry Rice, the dawning of the Terrell Owens era. And okay, defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers. You should know this one because he was a Cowboy forever.
Defensive end
Edge
from
rusher.
the 49ers. No, I don't remember.
Haley.
Haley.
Yep.
I
And
forgot.
cornerback
Yeah.
for the San Francisco 49ers. Also was a Cowboy before. This was the
Was
year
that when
several Cowboys
Sanders
became 49ers and 49ers
was it
went to the Super Bowl.
was Sanders on that San
Yeah,
Fran team?
Neon Dion. Neon Dion. I can't name any other Chargers from memory, but I was 15 years old. Give me a break. But yeah, Natron Means, man. I don't know what happened to him after
Great
that,
name.
but yeah. All right.
All right.
Do we want to segue to the Kelce Swifties?
Yeah, let's do that, and that will probably also segue to my thoughts about the flag football because there's a lot of wussification going on and there's a lot of stupidity. But let's pause for a second because the dog is being obnoxious.
Okay. All right. Well, we're back and we're going to start with the flag football. So we don't have to talk about football next week. Uh, it's more of a meta thing for me because there's three things. First of all, it's still stupid that they moved the Pro Bowl to before the Super Bowl because you never have anybody in the Super Bowl in the Pro Bowl, which theoretically you have the best players in the league in the Super Bowl. So we'll just leave it at that. That's dumb. The second thing is I agree with switching to flag football because you were basically playing flag football anyways and pretending it was regular football. So that's cool. I'm cool with that. That's fine. My beef is the advertisements. If you've noticed, they've got that one clip in there where I guess it's an option play and the guy's running to the end zone. He tosses it back and the guy just gets plowed by another guy and they're using this as the advertisement. I agree with switching to flag football so nobody gets hurt, but then you just showed an illegal play and you're celebrating it because of the big hit. So you're advertising it because of the big hit, which technically is illegal in flag football.
I don't like it, but here's why. Because I have this, I really do need a aluminum hat beside to put on for these segments because I think this is what the NFL would ultimately like to do is just do flag football because they don't like the optics and they don't want the headache of having to deal with the injuries and what that does to the bottom line, what that does in NFLPA negotiations. Um, I could see moving to, I mean, that's been our gripe for years. Those of us who grew up watching 80s and 90s and older than us even 70s football and watching, you know, toothless guys beat the crap out of other toothless guys, that the NFL as a league, as an organization, doesn't like that image anymore. They still try and sell it in the NFL films. But that is targeting the old school fan. For the modern fan, for the modern audience, they don't like that look.
Yeah, I think Goodell's too smart for that. He's pushing the envelope to make the NFLPA happy, but at the same time, he's trying to keep enough of it to keep everybody engaged because he knows if they switch to that, the ratings are just going to trash.
See, I don't think I'm not optimistic enough to give the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that it's a trying to play both sides or trying to give the wussification just enough. I see it more as a frog in the pot, just slowly turning up the heat, slowly acclimating the modern audience to new football.
Yeah, except there's a third party in this now. We have competition. The USFL and XFL merged. And so now you have a legitimate, it's still like a third party candidate running right now. But if you wussify it too much, then this
Yeah.
other organization can say, hey, look at us. We're still
I
playing
only
real
watched a
football.
little bit of USFL games. I never even sat down and watched a whole game, so I don't know. Do they actually play football? How
Mhm.
much difference is there?
No, they play football. It's
So
it's
I knew in the lead up to it, especially the XFL was part of their marketing was, you know, m more old school than new ball.
yeah, but the mistake they made is they also made it more WWF, more WWE, and as well.
Yeah.
If they had just pushed the no, we're keeping to the old school rules, I think they would have initially got a better audience. And there's still this limbo area we're in where everybody's kind of footballed out by the Super Bowl. and then the
Mhm.
other ones come in, and you have to really be kind of searching for an alternative to go over there right now.
Yeah, I think they start too soon. I think that if they really want to get people hyped, their opening day should be um like draft weekend Sunday.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe right after the combine, where people are starting to get excited about football again.
Yeah.
And then you just saw the
Yeah.
combine and you're waiting for the draft and you're like, oh, there's some football on. Let me turn it on and watch
Mm,
that. I think that would help. Arena football didn't take off, and everybody said, "Oh, well, Arena tried it," but it was so different. It was
yes.
kind of fun to watch, but it was so different that you're not getting that experience. If you almost, if you've played a sport, it's easier to watch for you. And arena football is enough different that you're like, what's going on here?
Mm. I always thought Arena was I understood that people liked it because it was fast. I always thought it was a little too fast.
Well, and that's
You could never let a drives didn't develop the way they do. The reason football is so fascinating is because it is an orchestra. It is a lot of parts coming together to make one harmony, and it builds to something. You still have explosive plays, you still have the occasional 80-yard bomb, but more often it's a drive that is trying to build and grow
mhm.
rather than every drive is this.
Well,
And
and this is where I
it
think the
kind of
people in the
burnt you
NFL
out, I
get
thought.
it a little bit because part of the rules push was to get more scoring, to make the games more interesting. A lot of the rules push were to get more scoring,
Mm-hmm.
but we've got a great example of how more scoring doesn't necessarily sell, and that's arena football. Because you
Mm-hmm.
want to see a 80 to 75 game, you can watch arena football. It's not necessarily what drives viewership.
It's
So
how does the scoring happen? That is
mhm.
what makes it exciting.
So there are people that are so maybe there are powers that are trying to do what you're trying to do, but I think there are also powers within that are trying to find that happy balance. And there's probably even powers within that are saying, no, back to the old ways. So,
I would hope so. Um, and one of, for instance, we've complained about the rules, the officiating. I thought one of the more interesting things about the playoffs is that it seemed like 10 years ago compared to the season, which was one of the officiating problems, is that so for instance, um in the Dallas games, Cooks had back. I don't think they were back-to-back plays, but they were back-to-back targets where Cooks I thought was clearly interfered with on one, and that was the one the commentators even talked about of they weren't sure why he didn't get a call there. And the other one, I mean, I didn't think it was interference or holding, but the way they called it this season, it should have been,
mhm,
but they didn't throw it. Now I'm fine with let the guys play, let the men be men, but that's not how you're doing it during the regular season. If that's how you're going to do it during the playoffs, you need to be doing that during the regular season.
mhm.
And so I don't know if something happened there, if there was a, you know, or an edict, a rules committee thing or discussion of let the players play more because we don't want the officials deciding the game during a playoff game. It's bad enough when it happens during the regular season, but we don't want that stink during a playoff game. Okay, I understand that, but it's like changing your strike zone in the middle of the game.
Hmm.
It's you hear baseball players say all the time, the key thing is a consistent strike zone. It doesn't have to be exactly in that box, but so long as every time a ball is just outside, it's a strike. Okay, well, I know that. And so long as you're consistent on that, I can play that. I can't play it if it keeps changing.
Well, and back to the officiating and picking the crews, it blew my mind that the number one in favor of home and number one in favor of away teams were even on playoff crews. That should be part of the selection process. Those two
Yeah.
crews should have been eliminated right
Yeah.
from the bat.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have a review board where they just happen to have that game where they're in the loud stadium and it affected,
I mean,
another
you
team
know this
more
more
or
than I
something.
do,
But
but isn't that basic, data analysis
yeah,
101 as you throw out the
you
tails?
throw out the outliers. Yeah.
Um, I had a thought. Where was it going? Oh, speaking of wussification, um, this actually segues into the Swifty talk because I did have this thought while I was getting annoyed at every KC, you know, first down, they're showing the box with Taylor Swift in it. But I did have this somewhat amusing to me thought of, well, this is annoying, but on the other hand, maybe in the long run it will be good because this might be the first time Taylor Swift has dated an actual man.
Well,
Because
and
for
this
all
is
of its faults, hold up, for all of its
yeah.
faults, the NFL football is still one of the few places in America where you can find true masculinity,
Well, and
old
if you
fashioned
listen to
masculinity.
Kelce podcast too, they're pretty old school dudes. They're not like
Mm-hmm.
wokies. I mean, he got paid $20 million to do a Pfizer commercial, and so he does have a price point. But at the same time, on
Mm-hmm.
on the regular, he's kind of a normal dude. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at hypergamy. Who the fuck else is Taylor Swift gonna date? Dan Bilzerian? Yeah, that's gonna go well, right? You've
Well, she
got to
had
you've
four or
got to
five
pick a
albums that were all in a row. They were all about bad breakups. And it's honey, at some point, what's the common denominator?
yeah, you
We
are.
and we've talked
But also the
about this
common
before.
denominator it could be because you're dating lesser men.
Exactly. What's your bubble? There are no good men out there. You're only looking at this. You need to get out of that Venn diagram and go somewhere else.
I don't know the exact number, but it's an astounding number of divorces based on the wife making more money than the man. It's I think it's in the 70s or 80s
Yeah, we
percentage.
we
Yeah.
talked about it a while back because we
Yeah.
talked about our own examples and of how you can buck that trend. And it was like 2/3 or 3/4. It was really high.
Now, even with Kelce, he's not going to make the income she does. She's pretty much a $1 billion asset. And his 20
Mm-hmm.
million was a big payday, so even then, but he makes up for it in other manly things, being big, being strong, being a future Hall of Famer, being a Super Bowl winning tight end, all of those other, this is something I didn't include in the last discussion, but I was thinking about it when I was thinking about this situation was I might have bought myself some cred by fighting because
Mm-hmm.
I did this manly thing on a bigger stage that actually made me more
Yeah, yeah.
attractive. You know, it,
No, that
it
that that is a good point. It is uh
it's not
uh
exactly money, even though money is kind of a big measure for it. It's status. It's cred.
anthropologically, women want men who will fight. Why? Well, because not that long ago you literally had to fight to protect your
Hmm.
woman, protect your family. And that now has translated to, it doesn't have to be a literal fight, but it could just be I'm going to go deal with this thing because it needs to be dealt with directly and firmly. And then, you know, my wife doesn't have to deal with it.
And
That is a fight. And that is something that a woman both wants and needs. And there we just got canceled again.
and we do it abstractly very well in modern society. This is back to our argument about healthy tribalism with sports teams. We do it abstractly with dominance as a participant in sports.
Mm-hmm.
You show your dominance in sports, and that helps bridge that gap of, oh, I don't have to defend you from a lion because we don't live in the Serengeti anymore. Well, some people do, but we don't. So it helps bridge that gap psychologically, which are all those things that we don't think we think about, but we actually do.
Mm-hmm.
So so
Yeah.
who else is she going to date? I mean, he's a tall, good-looking dude that makes a lot of money, that is very good at his sport. It's a lot better than that next. Most of her boyfriends were like music executives, right? Things
Yeah.
along those lines. The people she
In
had
some way
contact
related to the
with. Yeah,
entertainment industry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it only makes sense. It might be the better relationship. It might be the better thing. Now, still as a football fan, it's like quit showing me her, keep showing me the game. But it
That's why I love the Buffalo game, because he's got an older brother that's gonna put his big hairy belly in front of the camera.
yeah, so this
It's the
segues
best
right to
thing
what I
about
wanted to
that
talk
game.
about because the talking point is let me make sure I have the right. Oh, I didn't have the right one. Good thing I looked. Okay, here we go. This is the media talking point right here. MAGA melting down over Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. MAGA conservative men melting down over this. But I will admit that my you might be able to speak to this better for because you watch more conservative news. But from what I'm seeing is, I mean, you can't get much more right wing than Matt Walsh, other than extremism, like realistic right wing, like conservative, I guess I should say, not right wing, conservative. If you were to make a list of most degenerate and objectable pop stars who have done the most harm to our culture and the most damage to young minds, Taylor Swift wouldn't even make the top 50. So that's kind of a positive note. That's not
Yep.
hate from the right. That's not hate from MAGA. Commander Phil Labonte, Phil that remains. The dumbest fight ever. MAGA goes to war on Swift. These are the signs that I'm getting. The news tells you
Mm-hmm.
this, but I will
Mm-hmm.
admit, and maybe this is why I wanted to bring you into the conversation, is because you do follow more right wing stuff than I do. My right wingers are pretty much more disaffected lefties and independents that have been pushed to the
Yeah.
spectrum to the right by perception. So, but yeah, everything I'm seeing, those are just two examples I brought up. I wanted to bring the Matt Walsh just because he is considered a I mean, he you don't get
Yeah.
much more conservative than him. And Phil Labante's he's libertarian, right? But he's pretty right wing. Uh, but it's across the board. Everybody I follow is like, this is a dumb fight. Quit talking about it. This is a dumb fight. Quit talking about it. But yet the media keeps saying conservatives hate Taylor Swift. And I think it's
From
confusing
yeah.
football fans saying, quit going away from my football
Yes.
game and stick to football versus a narrative they want to push.
It is the same reason I can't stand watching the Rams and the Chargers, because the camera crew, the producers, directors of the game seem to think that the rest of us care about what celebrities are in the stadium like you do. No, we don't. We're here to watch a damn game,
Yeah, yeah. Who
right?
cares? Jack
I'm not
Nicholson's there
here
for the
to crowd
Lakers game,
watch.
right?
Yes, I am not there to crowd watch. I'm there to watch a game. It is the exact same reaction. And what I thought of when you were going through those, you know, through what you were seeing, is, to me, this is exactly like the birth certificate crap. The media made the birth certificate a thing, and I've said this before, because most people on the right weren't talking about his birth certificate. They didn't care. That was extraneous. What they were talking about was Obama's background, where he grew up, how he was raised, what he thought, where he came from, who helped him get ahead. These were all very legitimate questions to vet a candidate. But because there were a few dingleberries questioning his citizenship, and there were some legitimate ones there, but we'll skip past that for a second, and specifically the conspiratorial idea that he wasn't even born in Hawaii, that he was born somewhere else, that became the talking point because it made for a very convenient and flammable straw man.
Mhm.
I really think that's what this is here. This makes for a convenient, flammable straw man when, yeah, there may be some people freaking out over this, but from what I've heard, it's a joke. Most people, when they're talking about the Kelce Swiftness, they're poking fun at it. They're
Mhm.
not seriously upset. They're not going to war. It's a joke. Now, some of the humor is more dark than others, and some of it is, a little more serious than the just stop showing the damn box every time he catches a pass, because I don't care. I'm trying to watch the game and
Mhm.
you're annoying me.
Yeah, show
But
me a
but
replay of the
also
catch, you know?
but also to Matt Walsh's point, problem with Taylor Swift is she's just so banal. Her music isn't offensive, it's just nothing. I mean, this isn't like, you know, someone's dating the chick who sang WAP, whatever that was.
WAP
You
was
know,
Cardi B, I think.
or one of those truly degenerate, to use Walsh's word, one of those people whose lyrics and message are truly degenerate. Swift's is just sad. Her lyrics are just sad, and not in like the sad poignant way of something like, Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah or something like that. No, it's sad in that, oh, this is your life, oh, you poor girl.
Well, yeah, there's a meta negative impact that I think she has, but the NFL thing is not one of them. And my point was, it's not right wing guys that are hating on her. It's the media telling you right wing guys are hating on her. Football fans just want to watch football, and we're complaining about that specific thing. Everything else about her is who cares? Like you said, banal. Just as Walsh said, she's not even top 50 of most degenerate. Now, when it comes to the
Mhm.
modern female image, depression rates, dating scene, and everything, I do think she has an impact on that. And I think she's part of
Yes.
this, the whole, but that's a very meta argument because social media in itself is the whole relationships are there just to make me happy idea
She, she's
is
not
yeah, is a
she's
net
part
negative.
of
Yeah.
she's part of this giant maelstrom that feeds into the mental health crisis of teenage girls that has skyrocketed in the past 10-ish years. But it's not like she's, Dr. Evil with the weather gun making the storm. She's just part of this big ugly mess.
Well, and she can be very much expressing herself. The problem is there, other than like a Paris Hilton or something, who else has her life? You don't, let's go back to the hypergamy argument. If you're a teenage girl and you're dating the high school quarterback and he didn't make you happy that day and you're going to let it ruin your life,
Mm-hmm.
that's different than Taylor Swift being this ultra successful pop star and some guy just not being able to add up because that's exactly how relationships work. There is a balance there. It's not taking score, but there's always this, do you compliment me? And if somebody is too weak compared to you, they will never compliment you.
You just made me think of something that we talked about a few weeks ago, because it was the Indian lady whose name I'm never going to remember, on with Chris Williamson, and she was talking about the stop getting psychological advice from Instagram. And one of the things she talked about were these terrible, awful memes that, it's one thing when some influencer posts sophistry, posts something that's supposed to sound deep, but is actually utterly meaningless. That's bad enough. But what she was talking about was actual negative advice. And one of the things she talked about was, oh, you don't need that negativity in your life. What are you talking about? Life is negativity, life is pain. Anyone who says differently is selling something, to quote the great Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And
Sam, you
and
drink too much. Oh, get out of my life. You're negative. Who was the person right
that
there?
is just, Taylor Swift isn't the leader of that movement. She's just part of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
again,
what you're talking about is
she
the
sings of her own
negativity.
experience. It's not what you're going to encounter. Guess what? You're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be working a mundane job alongside your
Yep.
husband, and that's the way things are going to be. I'm sorry, that's life.
And a lot of what she sings about or champions isn't healthy, that's for sure. But again, to Walsh's point, she's not even in the top 50. She's not the leader of some of this mental health crisis movement. She's just a part of it. If anything, Zuckerberg is at the top of the evil chart because Facebook and Instagram are the leaders of this pop psychology disaster because they purposefully push it knowing the negative effects it has. But have you watched Painkiller yet? I've
Okay,
had it
so
recommended
here's the
to me.
problem. I hate to say purposefully because I hate to imply intent without evidence, but they are purposefully following the trends because that gets more clicks.
They aren't
And
purposely
and
trying to hurt people. We can't say that.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
are
but
purposely
yeah, I mean, and what's going to
feeding
be,
this.
yeah, you almost have to say purposefully in what would stop this. You have to actually purposefully go outside of what people are going to click on. Because are you more likely to click on, oh, happiness and joy, or are you more likely to click on, this will make you depressed? It's
So if you haven't heard of it, Painkiller is this mini series on Netflix. And I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's this big pharma company that's basically credited with creating the opioid crisis.
mm,
And that's not entirely true, but they were a major component of pushing um of pushing pain as a diagnostic element, and here's an opioid to make you pain free or to reduce your pain. And they knew, much like big tobacco knew that what they were saying was crap. These people knew that what they were saying was crap, but they also knew it would make them billions of dollars. And to me, that's what Meta is. That's what Facebook, Instagram is. Even if they're not knowingly or purposefully hurting people, they know they are doing something negative. They know what the negative effects are, but they make billions of dollars manipulating these algorithms, manipulating people's psyche, and so they're fine with it. So Taylor Swift to me, much like, and let's get canceled again, and this is why we only have 7 viewers, but Donald Trump isn't the problem, and he hasn't been. And I've been saying this since 2015. Donald Trump is a symptom. He is neither the problem nor, sorry, canceled again, the solution. He is a symptom, though. He is a symptom of a very bad disease.
mhm. That gets us to this paper I was talking about. Actually, a good paper. Intolerance
Oh,
of
goody.
uncertainty modulates brain-to-brain synchrony during political polarized perception. So
Certainly.
basically, they did brain scans on people watching different political things.
Hmm.
And one of the things was the vice presidential debate in 2016. And they were able to map uh, what parts of the brain was firing up when they were seeing, certain sides of the argument or whatever. And they also did a bunch of psychological questionnaires on them and everything to get personality types or whatever. And basically, anxious people were more likely to be politically polarized. So that's one part of it.
Hmm.
But also, they were able to sync up who you could see by someone's brain activity what end of the spectrum they were on. And I would love to see those brain scans if they had done Hillary and Donald, not the vice presidential debate, because Pence and whoever the hell Hillary's running mate was is a lot less
I don't even
polarizing than
remember.
Hillary and
Yeah.
Donald. But one of the main ones was the insular relaxation. Insula is a small piece about right here, but it is associated with insula means little tongue, which is fun because it's associated with the act of disgust. So if you put something in your mouth that tastes poisonous and you throw it back up, that's an insular reaction. And so is that ick feeling you get from emotion is an insular reaction. And that was the greatest fire up on either side when it came to political leaning. I would love to have seen that if it was Hillary and Donald, because what's the main feeling you get as a Republican towards Hillary? Blech. And why is Donald so hated by the left? Blech.
Back in the 90s, when Hillary was first running for Senate, and there was all this talk about this was her setup to run for president. Rush Limbaugh got in a lot of trouble because he very, I would say, presciently, because I think this had a lot to do with her loss in 2016. He very presciently said why Hillary could never be elected president. And I quote, because she reminds too many people of their first ex-wife.
Oh God. Oh, that's horrible. She does not remind me of my first ex-wife. Uh, she's a nice lady. Oh, and luckily for you, you do not have a first ex-wife, so you don't have to speak to this.
But even if you don't have one, you can see the stereotyping and go, oh yeah, I get that.
No, she reminds everybody of the
Yikes.
overbearing mother, the witchy
Mm,
mother-in-law, the person who's got an opinion about
that is
everything and
probably a
knows
better
nothing. Yeah,
analogy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the overbearing witchy mother-in-law is the much better analogy.
Who's willing to
Um,
kill people for money, but that's.
allegedly.
Or was I talking about Nikki Haley? I don't remember. Oh yeah, allegedly. No, no, no. They
No, no,
have they
no.
have sent people. They have sent people to war for the military-industrial complex.
Nikki is willing to let other people kill people for money. Allegedly.
Okay, send people to their deaths for money. Fund projects that result in lots of people dying so they can make more money.
Which
Yes.
is interesting coming from someone like Nikki Haley, who is a supposed Christian conservative. Nikki, have you
I
ever heard
thought
of
she
this
was an Indian
obscure
person of color.
uh,
She's not
and
Hindi?
Nikki, have you ever heard of this obscure biblical character named King David?
Hmm. Yeah. This whole 40 million missing in Ukraine, that probably pissed her off because it didn't go to Boeing.
I'd heard that. I was wondering if we were going to bring that up, and I didn't dig into it. But
It's not a subject for today's thing, so we just leave it as a joke for
nope.
today. Let's get to Joy Reid
Mm-hmm. Oh,
because
I
this
forgot
actually
this
goes
was a
right
thing.
into it because it's about her. This is her comment is right on line with this.
I'm really curious what this is going to be because Joy Reid, for another reason, actually came up on my radar last weweek in some of the podcasts I listened to.
Okay, so
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 I'll
the
I'll
clip I
mention
have
what that is.
actually you'll see Brianna Joy Gray first because she's introducing the clip. But a lot of people get those two confused when they're talking about, oh, this person said that wrong thing. And I'm like, no, Brianna's actually mostly reasonable. She's a little more progressive than I would like, but she's someone I could talk to. Joy
Is this
Reid
the
is
chick from The Hill?
the Hill, yeah. But a lot of
Okay.
people get them confused when you say the name. If you say Brianna Joy Gray or Joyanne Reid, I guess they're just enough alike that people just put them as one person, and they'll say a quote from one of them and be like, "Oh no, the other person," and they'll attribute it to the other. I'm like, "No, no, no, no. There's a different person. Different person. This one's much more reasonable." But she's introducing it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I clipped it just to where she's done introducing it. So, da, 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 da. All right. So this is from the Hill. Oh, I forgot to share with sound. Let's get back out of that. Hold on. Sorry, we're amateurs here, even though we're 250.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today,
I'm sure
shut
they
down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another war.
You hear what she said there?
Excuse me.
He said, I would get it done today. And if Congress couldn't do it, I'll get it done today. And she said, start another fucking war. Now we know what you think when you're not in front of the camera.
You know, that makes me want someone with a hidden microphone go ask her when she doesn't think she's on mic. Ask her what she really thinks about Obama. how many drone strikes, cruise missile strikes, how many people did he kill in potentially extrajudicial ways during his presidency? And because he campaigned against the Iraq War, and because he got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize before he'd done a damn thing, there's this popular perception that he was a president of peace.
No,
It's really inconvenient that
he
Donald
just did
Trump
everything under the table.
it's really inconvenient that Donald Trump was actually the president of peace. Uh-oh.
Well, he was
Yeah.
nominated for a peace prize just here recently.
Oh, was Trump?
Yeah, for the Abraham Accords.
Nice. Who do you know who nominated him?
I did not recognize the name, but it was a congresswoman.
Okay.
So, but no,
Okay.
back to the subject. This is something Veritas, pay attention here since you don't watch us anyways, or not Veritas anymore. James O'Keefe, whatever your company is now. Truth.
Veritas still does stuff, but yeah, they've
No,
O'Keefe is.
they've dissolved.
Oh, I thought Veritas was still going under new management.
They were, and then they fired
They
all the
didn't last long?
reporters. They
Okay.
fired all the reporters because they weren't making enough money, but they forgot that, you need reporters to do the thing. Basically, admin tried to save money and they didn't want to fire themselves. So, and then they kind of dissolved. I think they're technically a company now, but they're not doing anything. This is what happens when you get too much. So, James O'Keefe, it's partly your fault because you facilitated the administrative state within your own company, but you're doing better now. But if you could find a way to get mics that record even when they're not playing on the screen and record everything all these people say when they don't think they're on the mic.
Yeah.
That would be something else, and just collect a whole bunch of them and put it all out there, and we would see
I really want to know what like someone like Joy Reid, I would love to know what she actually thinks about Kamala Harris.
Well, she was recently arguing for that the against the what's that group? Moms for Liberty? Is that the group?
Yes, that was yes. That's
And
where
she's
she came up on my radar.
Yeah, and she was arguing for whatever book it was. And this Moms for Liberty person, this is my problem with these HR type people being in charge of these. Yeah, you've got the emotion to get things going, but you suck on camera. You suck when it comes to doing. And she was on there and she could have destroyed Joy Reid. But yet she had no preparation. She did not know how to do it. And she did not know how to, it was so bad because Joy was able to control the conversation the whole time. You need someone as a mouthpiece behind your emotion that understands what they're doing.
Let's go back to being canceled. This is why men are important. This is why women need men, because they're not confrontational, which is good sometimes, because sometimes men have a confrontation when it's not needed, but sometimes it's needed. And the correct answer for anyone who doesn't know, Joy Reid had the founder, the head of Moms for Liberty, who was founded because men weren't stepping up, because dads weren't going to the school board meetings and saying, what the hell do you mean you're letting some dude who feels pretty change in the locker room with my daughter? What the hell do you mean that you're sending this book that's all about underage anal rape home with my son? So moms had to step up and do it because dads weren't. But where the dad is needed is because what Joy Reid said to this woman was, what gives you the right? How are you an expert to decide what should or shouldn't be in a school library? The response should have been, Joy, how many children have you had?
Well, no, I thought the response to that was okay. It was the follow-up to it. when she responded to the question with the question of when is it appropriate to teach a junior high student about what is it, anal sex or whatever it was, and Joy said,
Well, no, it wasn't just anal sex. It was pederasty. It was grooming. It wasn't just gay sex. It was grooming. That's what's in the book.
yeah, but what that was what she responded with, and Joy took back control of the conversation after that.
Exactly.
And she said, "You asked me something specific about the book, and da 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 da." Whereas the answer to that was, "I didn't ask you something specific about the book. I asked you a very general question. You don't have to know anything about the book to answer my question. You only have to know when it's appropriate to teach a 12-year-old about sodomy."
My point is that the opening I love the Socratian method is you answer a question with a question. So you keep asking your questioner questions to lead them to the conclusion you want. You know, if somebody asks you a question that the best example is Jordan Peterson with I believe her name was Newman. Kathy Newman, I think was her name.
The one who did the,
from the BBC.
John Money stuff. Oh no, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So Peterson years ago, this really blew up because it was so good. Because she didn't back down. she didn't get flustered, to her credit. She didn't get flustered. She kept battling with him.
Yeah.
And it where Peterson, the reason Peterson was so good and so effective is because whenever she would ask him one of these gotcha questions, he would not accept the premise. He would challenge the premise and ask her questions. So the initial response should have been a bigger challenge. It should have been, what the hell are you talking about? What's my expertise? I'm a mom. Are my kids mine or are they yours, Joy? Are they the government's or are they mine? Am I responsible for my children or are you? And if you say you, then you'd better be packing because we're going to throw down. Because I'll be good and goddamned if I let someone come in and take my children from me because they have a mental illness and you want to mutilate their body. Fuck you. The reason I'm so hot on that is because one of the stories I read yesterday that actually relates to this, because again, the book that specifically was being talked about there with Joy Reid and This Mom's from Liberty and other books like it, they're not just let's all hold hands and if you're gay it's okay. No, these are straight up grooming. They are about, go back, I've mentioned this a few times. Why did Milo Yiannopoulos have to be canceled?
Because
he said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, he said he was probably gay because he was molested as a child by a Catholic priest.
But he went further than that, because it's okay if you bash the Catholic Church. He went further than that.
I'm trying not to get us another strike. By the way, if you're seeing this because we survived our last strike, which means you can't talk about RFK at all, even if you're talking about other topics than the
or you will get auto flagged.
Pfizer thing. Yeah. You will get auto flagged.
He talked about how this was a major component to the gay community, that most gay teenagers, most gay boys becoming young adults, their initial experience is with an older man who guides them, one might say, or grooms them, I might say. He said the quiet part out loud, and he had to be canceled. And the right was more than happy to go along with it because a lot of people on the right were already annoyed with him. In much the same way that I despise Alex Jones, but his canceling should have been opposed by the right. And we see that now because he was the canary.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, a couple in Montana had their child taken away.
I saw this
because the school, I believe it was, who started this, said that the girl was having suicidal thoughts. if you are a parent or if you are just a thinking and feeling human being, you can certainly empathize with the horror, the frustration, the uncertainty of these parents and, oh geez, what do I do? Okay. But you also know that, especially with teenage girls, that is not that uncommon, sadly, more so now. Well, eventually, what came to pass is that she was having suicidal thoughts because she thought she was trans. Now, in Montana, one of the reddest states in the union, depending on which statistics you look at, Montana, Wyoming, or Idaho have the highest gun ownership per capita in the United States, and they are the reddest states in the union. It is Montana is one of the few states that has passed on the books. You cannot initiate transitioning of a minor. I don't remember if it's at all or without parental notification. However, the hospital found a loophole.
This is ABC News. I was looking for a neutral story on this, not a Daily Wire or something. But yeah, this is the story we're talking about.
This is local ABC News. A 14-year-old girl, fuck you, you should be impeached, Governor Greg Gianforte.
Yeah.
Because what he said was, okay, so here was the gray area and the loophole. The law would not allow surgery or hormone therapy. But social transitioning was a gray area, the hospital decided. And the hospital then sent the girl to Wyoming. Again, another very red state. How is this happening? If you are a parent, you better check what the laws in your state are and then figure out who your sheriff is and see if your sheriff has your back. Because the sheriff in the county where this happened should be arresting absolutely everyone involved. School counselors, doctors, nurses, hospital administration. I don't care. You should arrest every single one for kidnapping and child endangerment. That's who the experts are, Joy fucking Reid. You despicable, lying piece of crap. Because we know from your hot mic about Joe Biden, you don't buy this crap. You know these talking points are garbage, which makes me wonder what the hot mic for that Moms for Liberty would have been.
Joy does have children. I think her youngest child is 24 years old. So, congratulations. You look very young for your age, Joy Reid, especially with your Donald Trump haircut.
So if I passed enough laws and got enough of the regulatory state behind me to determine that you were abusing your child because you weren't raising them as a conservative Christian, you would have been fine with me sending in the authorities to take your child away? Huh, Joy?
Well,
that's what we're talking about.
Considering the winds of change and how these people change their opinion based on who's paying the bills, her kid's 24 years old. I bet you when her kid was 14, she had different opinions on everything.
No, we know that for a fact because she got into a lot of trouble because of some of her old blog posts.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, this was a while ago. But now she is a leftist in good standing because she perpetuates all the woke talking points. But not that long ago, because a lot of the woke talking points don't fly in the Black community, Joy Reid was singing a very different tune.
Mm-hmm. Well, one more thing before we go. Let's do our checkup on the border.
And not only is this directly tied to that Joy Reid hot mic, but it also ties into my rant about the trans and the taking of kids. The people who are attacking Texas for trying to secure the border and parroting Biden's talking points. The most effective ad in 2015, I thought it was a shame that it didn't catch on. It was Cruz trying to retake the immigration issue from Trump, had this great ad about how if it were lawyers and journalists running across the southern border, the response in Washington would be very different. What is happening on our southern border doesn't affect these people. So they're fine with touting the talking points and then, having a hot mic incident. Yeah.
You mean there's some luxury beliefs going on here?
Just a little bit.
Okay, so but that's kind of not the point of this story, though. Breaking news. Border Patrol has no plans to remove razor wire at Texas border. Senior official. Border Patrol is a federal organization. It is not a state organization. So basically, the ultimatum was put out there: you stop or else we're going to send our people in. And the people that they're supposed to send in say, Biden, fuck you. We're not doing it. So
the
guess
subtext
what?
of that.
Yeah, guess what? These are the guys everybody says you want to say you wouldn't have been the Nazi to gas the Jews.
Yep.
These are the guys that weren't them.
Yep.
At least the officials that
Kudos
are
to you
making
guys.
those decisions. Yeah.
Kudos to you guys. I hope it continues. Now, I also hope at least part of this is because I love good old fashioned Schadenfreude of, hey, Biden administration. You remember when Joe and Kamala and others went out there condemning Border Patrol for whipping illegals trying to cross the border on horseback and making direct comparisons to slave masters? Yeah, you remember that? Because it looks like Border Patrol remembers that.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful what you which bridges you burn, right?
I do hope though that courage is contagious, because this could get ugly. This will get ugly, actually, because it will make for good politics. The uglier you make it, the more divisive you make it, the more it will make for good politics. And the most direct way for this to get ugly is for Biden to call up the National Guard, to federalize the Texas National Guard, so that, all right, well, your commander in chief is no longer Greg Abbott. It is now former Vice President Joe Biden. My hope would be, and I don't know who is currently the head general for the Texas National Guard, but my hope would be that whoever that is says, no, sir, that is an illegal order and I will not follow it. All right, you're relieved. And then I would hope that the next man up says, no, sir, that is an illegal order and I will not follow it. All right, you're relieved. Whatever the consequences, which could be severe, dishonorable discharge at the least.
Suelzer is his last name. Swelzer, something like that. You know what it makes me think of is Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman. What was that damn movie?
Crimson Tide.
Crimson
Great
Tide.
movie.
Yes.
Great movie.
Yeah. That's what it makes me think of. And by the way, for all you wokies out there, we're Denzel Washington in this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the reason I love that movie is because it was one of the few movies where the antagonist isn't really a bad guy.
No.
You can think Gene Hackman's wrong, but he's not a bad guy. He's just wrong. As far as he's concerned, he's doing the right thing. And you can see an argument for that. It's hard to see the argument on the other side here, because basically what the Supreme Court has said, and now they haven't issued a directive on this yet. They've just issued a judgment. They have not issued an order. And that is key here in this debate. The Supreme Court has not issued an order,
they just said the federal agency can cut the barbed wire, which the federal agency just said we're not going to do it. So it's That's where
So
we
now
are. Yeah.
if the Supreme Court issues an order, that's the other way this could get ugly. Because now you've got a direct command from the Supreme Court, who doesn't have the authority to issue direct commands, but we
I was
believe in
about to say, can
judicial
the Supreme
supremacy
Court
because we're
even do
idiots.
that? Uh,
They can do it, and they have done it. The problem is you have no constitutional authority to do that,
mhm.
but you have traditional authority to do that, and we've all gone along with it. And they shouldn't have that authority. They don't have
Well,
that
I,
authority.
I would say the Border Patrol would probably stay in line because they're basically defying what the Supreme Court said they could do. Why would they change if the Supreme Court said, no, you
The
have to do
Supreme
this?
Court said you can do this, and their federal superior said do it, and they said, nah.
No.
Yeah, so that's the other way this could get messy. The nationalizing of the guard, though, the reason the other governors matter so much is because now Biden couldn't just nationalize the Texas Guard. If 20 to 30 other governors are not just sending letters of support, but sending units of their own National Guard to assist,
He would have to do that in
now
all those
Biden would have to
states.
nationalize the entire National Guard, which raises the stakes significantly. Because now you're getting into actual Civil War type stuff here, and that's where it gets ugly. And my
14 states right now are
hope would
sending
be,
National Guard.
okay. My hope would be enough people would say, I'm not going to do that. Another Denzel Washington movie that wasn't as good a movie as Crimson Tide, and I'm drawing a blank on it. Crap.
Who's in it?
What was the name of that movie? Bruce Willis as an army general. Tony Shalhoub was one of the co-stars as a Tony Shalhoub is great because he's got such an odd look that he can play just about any ethnicity, and he's playing an Islamic, a Muslim FBI agent who's under Denzel Washington's task force, and it's basically enough terrorist attacks have gone on that martial law is declared in New York, and I'm drawing a blank
what
on the
was that
name.
damn movie?
And that wasn't as good a movie, but is frighteningly more appropriate to our modern times, because the climax of the movie is Denzel Washington going in to arrest Bruce Willis, and the army personnel around him draw weapons, and that is the worst case scenario for where we're at, is Americans drawing weapons on each other. And as happens in movies and doesn't happen in real life, Denzel Washington delivers this great speech, and Bruce Willis tells his people to stand down and surrenders himself.
Well, and that's the problem with this whole thing, because we saw in the Joy Reid video we just played, in Biden's speech, he's trying to pull a fast one on you, because he says, when this new bill is signed, if Congress does their job, I'll shut the border down in a heartbeat. Those laws already exist.
The Siege. I forgot when this came out. The movie was called The Siege, and it came out in 1998.
Mhm.
So
Well,
3 years before 9/11 ever happened, and it's disturbingly prescient now.
The laws against illegal immigration already exist.
Mm-hmm.
We should be preventing that from the beginning. His little speech on if Congress does their job, what job is there? If the executive does their job, yeah.
You are compelled by law, by the Constitution, to execute the laws of the land. And you're not only are you not executing the laws, you are openly breaking those laws. This is the absurdity of the Supreme Court citing federal supremacy in this case, because we're not talking about some abstract legal theory here. The federal government, the federal agencies, let's say, not the federal government as a whole, the federal agencies responsible for enforcing the laws regarding immigration and illegal immigration are openly breaking the law. So it was bad enough when 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, that you had the Obama versus Arizona court case, where Arizona passed a law that basically gave authority to state agencies to enforce federal immigration law. That was a stupid decision in and of itself, because how can you say it violates federal supremacy for a state agency to help enforce federal law? That was bad enough, because Arizona's case was, well, first of all, we aren't contradicting federal law, so how can you cite federal supremacy here? And secondarily, the federals aren't enforcing this law, so it falls to us, the state, to enforce it. And John Roberts, in his infinite wisdom as an asshole, said, no, you can't do it. If the federal government decides they're not going to enforce it, that's their prerogative. Well, this is even worse than that, because the federal agencies are no longer not enforcing federal law. They are openly breaking the law. And this is where I wanted to dig into the statutes, and I'll tease that for next time, maybe, that according to federal statute, you are supposed to be immediately deported in almost all circumstances if you are caught crossing the border illegally. And if it happens multiple times, there are escalating penalties. So if you are caught violating a visa, you are not only deported, but then there's a penalty for how long before you can apply for another visa. Same thing with just straight up crossing illegally. Not only are you deported, but there is a set amount of time where you cannot apply for a green card, you cannot get a visa for basically a probationary period because you violated the law. Now, one of the wrinkles here is that supposedly all these people are claiming refugee status. Well, you can't unless you're Mexican. And a lot of these people are South or Central American, or not even from the Americas. By international law and treaty and US law, if you are a refugee, you must go to the nearest country.
Yeah, and I got a client whose family is in Mexico on kind of near the Guatemalan border, and they're complaining a lot right now because they're offering these people jobs and they're trying to help them out, and they're like, no, we're on our way to America. It's like, no, technically by asylum laws, you should be applying in Mexico.
I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna make this personal. My wife's family is from South Vietnam. Her father served in the South Vietnamese Navy, so he was on a list. So after America said, sorry, screw you, and bailed out, and the commies took over, her father and her older brother, who was only 5 or 6 at the time, were put in a re-education camp. Her mother fled with one of her older sisters while she was pregnant with her other sister, fled South Vietnam because here come the commies and they're coming after us. Because again, her father was in the South Vietnamese military. They didn't come straight here. They couldn't. That's not how it works. So even in that situation where I have an infant child, I'm pregnant with another child, my husband and my eldest son, who's only 5 or 6 years old, are in a re-education camp. But the law's the law, and for good reason. So she had to wait in Malaysia in a UN refugee camp that was set up in Malaysia for years before she could come to America, because that's how it works. Someone fleeing actual political persecution fled to the nearest safe country, waited in a refugee camp, applied to come to the United States, was eventually approved to come to the United States. And now we can talk about the rest of this crap, because they were here for like 20 or 30 years before they finally got their citizenship because the bureaucracy is asinine.
Mm-hmm.
That's another discussion altogether. But the people coming across our southern border are not they are not refugees. They are fleeing. This is one of the few times Donald Trump got it right. They are fleeing shithole countries. They are fleeing countries that are piss poor, and some of them are indeed very violent. But it is not the violence of our country just got taken over by a hostile regime, and even anyone who is even remotely related to the government is being put in a camp. It's being tortured. It's being re-educated, even if you're 6 fucking years old. That's a refugee. Just because your country is crap, that does not make you a refugee. We have refugee laws for a reason, because there are people who are legitimately in danger from their own government. That is who refugee laws are designed to protect. We can't do that when hundreds of thousands of people are flooding the system, claiming refugee status when they are obviously not, but being given consideration anyway. So how many people, how many actual refugees are getting shoved to the bottom of the list because there are hundreds of thousands of people who can transit Mexico and just walk across?
Well, imagine if all these people stayed in their home country and just stood up. It would be different if it was a couple thousand people, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. And yes, the government would come in and the people with the military might would come in and push them down. And then the UN would actually have a purpose, because that's what it's for. If a couple
Supposedly.
100,000 people stood up to their government because they're taking everything from them, and the government acted violently, that's when we step in. That's when even us peace-loving foreign anti-interventionalists would say, yeah, that one we're okay with.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'd hope so.
At least I would hope so.
Yeah.
We talked about this like way back in one of our first episodes about this is one of the failings of the right when talking about border security. Yes, the left sucks because they continually paint anyone who opposes them as racist. The right has not helped themselves in failing to articulate the issue properly, because someone I've complained about, I like because I like his sense of humor, Razor Fist, the Rageaholic channel. He's talked about this because he lives in Arizona and because he's done charity work across the border. So he knows full well what the situation on both sides of the border are. And as he pointed out, and as anyone who lives or has lived in South Texas knows just as well, by having an open border, you are hurting the people across the border every bit as much as you are hurting the people on this side of the border. Because one of the things that allows Mexico to continue to be a corrupt and ineffective state is remittances from America. And you see this, and this is something that has been talked about a lot currently, because the overwhelming majority of people rushing across the border right now, and the talk is about the refugees. Okay, well, refugees, you think women and children, like my wife's family, who fled the communists invading and murdering hundreds of thousands of people. You think women and children. Except the overwhelming majority of people rushing across the southern border right now are young men. Why?
I don't
Well, because
want
they
to
come here.
I don't want to sex refugees, because you could be, a farmer whose land was taken and trying to go somewhere
But
else. Or yeah.
if you are legitimately in peril, you're bringing your family.
Oh yeah.
If you are legitimately in family, you are either bringing your family or you're sending them ahead. That's not what's happening here. You're going ahead to make money and then bring your family, which means, are you really a refugee if it's safe for your wife and kids to stay there? Or what happens a lot, billions of dollars are sent from America to Mexico from workers, Mexican primarily, but Central American in general, workers in America who work here off the books and then send money back home. That props up the Mexican economy. That is why Mexico actually encourages illegal immigration. That allows their government to continue to be ineffective and corrupt, which hurts the Mexican people. So, by continuing to allow this humanitarian crisis on our own border, we're not just hurting our own people. For all of you, bleeding hearts who want to say everyone who's conservative is a racist, how come you don't care about brown people in Central America? Because that's who you're hurting.
Because they're removed.
Exactly.
It's the same as the cobalt mines in Congo. Yeah, EVs to save the planet. What about that family where they're everybody from 8 years old up is in the cobalt mine because they each get $1
and dies from cancer by the time they're 30.
Or gets crushed by one of the machines or whatever.
Yep.
I don't know why.
Stop just looking at the surface level empathy that you feel, the surface level self-congratulatory feeling for doing the right thing. Think a little deeper.
I think that's a good place to close us because we're closing on 2 hours.
And I have to pee because I'm old.
Yeah. The lighting's weird because I had to. That router in the other room is picking up the signal and it's able to go through the wire to the other router, but it is not giving out its own wireless signal. So we figured that part out. Now these windows are making me look like I'm super gray on the sides, but I actually think it looks pretty good. So we might keep that.
I think that works because it makes you look like Ravine instead of Samael. So that's more fitting. You dirty.
Except I'm not 6'8".
So that's how tall he's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
He was taller than Rand and almost as strong in the power. So yeah, that's why I was like, this stuff was wasted on a villain that just kind of went down early. But
that's a good point. Well, speaking of which, that's what we'll be doing Friday. We just covered the prologue, and we actually missed something that we need to talk about on Friday, because I noticed it too. In fact, a while back, a couple episodes back, I was pointing it out for that reason, because there's a moment in the in Knife of Dreams where Rand is aware of the other man, and the other man is pissed off. That's because Rand is sick and he's feeling it. And that's highlighted in the prologue here of Gathering Storm. And we missed it.
Oh, yeah. What was that comment?
So we'll talk about that.
I did make a comment that, wasn't it disturbing that Moradin is more concerned about the hand
pissed
missing?
Off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of that. And it's because he felt it.
Yeah.
And it presumably had some sort of effect on him, which he did not like. So we will get into that. Hopefully we'll get a little farther. There's a lot of stuff set up in the prologue as usual. And it should be fitting with our conversation because this book gets kind of dark. This book gets damn dark. So in between complaining about things we thought Sanderson didn't do well, we'll get to luxuriate in the awfulness of Rand's storyline, which is where we'll start on Friday.
All right. We'll see you then.